Welcome to the Healing Our Relationships podcast. I'm Marisa, healer, insight timer meditation teacher, and transformation guide, helping women transform their relationship to self. Join me each week on a journey of self-discovery as I hope to inspire you to step into awareness, compassionate curiosity, and authenticity. If you want to dive deeper and be held inside of this work and inside of community, join me on the last Thursday of the month live on Zoom, a 90-minute free gathering for women healing codependent patterns and healing their relationship to self. You can learn more about our group or working with me one-on-one at healwithalchemy.com. Until then, let's begin. Today's episode is inspired by a narrative that I still see quite often, and honestly, a narrative that found its way into my algorithm when I was really struggling in my relationship and I was hurting. I was wishing for more. I had hit a bottom with my codependency, but I was just really starting to figure out what that even meant. And a big part of me wanted to leave, but I was scared and I was confused. And I found myself in this place where I was really beating myself up. Like I had become the biggest villain of the story, because if I was hurting so bad, why didn't I leave? If I wanted something different, why couldn't I just choose different? Shouldn't I know better? Shouldn't I have healed enough or learned enough by now? And this is the narrative that was going on in my head. I was feeling really hard on myself. And of course, there's an algorithm that starts to notice what it is you're looking at and what you stop and what you pause at, and it feeds you more. And so the algorithm started to notice me stopping on these reels that were like inspiring women to leave. The message was, you can find better. You deserve, for me, a man. You deserve a man that will always put you first. And it was just this feeding of reel after reel of these one-liners and these memes and videos of women being worshipped and adored. And the more I stayed on those videos, the more the algorithm learned. It actually learned that I wanted a strong, masculine man who was also soft and like honored the divine feminine. Like it started to get very, very specific. And again, the message was just so simple. Just leave. There's someone out there who will love you. You deserve better. Go find it. And so what I'm sharing with you today is, one, I realized in my journey of healing, at the time I didn't even know how harmful this was to me. I could feel that it wasn't helping, that's for sure. But I didn't really realize how harmful it was until after I got to the other side and got through this journey of really coming home to myself. And I still see that narrative all the time. And I still see the memes and even really like popular world-renowned coaches and podcast hosts saying these things. Yes, there are many people in this world that you can be in a relationship with. Absolutely. But the idea that someone better is out there can actually create more confusion for people who are struggling inside of a real relationship that they're in right now that is so dynamic. It's not a meme. It's not black and white. And inside of that relationship are patterns of insecurity, survival response, trauma response patterns like fight, flight, freeze, fawn. For someone in this state, that narrative does not empower. It actually pulls them further away from themselves. When you're really confused and you're torn and you feel pain and you feel love and you've been with someone for a long time or you have children, there's all these aspects to the relationship. Just saying go ahead and leave and find someone better, that's not going to move the needle. And in fact, when people live in that space, if I'm just going to jump to the next one, typically they find themselves in the exact same relationship. That's what my story was. You could literally put your hand over the face of any single man that I was with, and every single pattern was the same. They were all emotionally unavailable. They all were obsessed with me until they weren't, and then I would fight for their love and attention and affection. And then I did that over and over and over and over until I married a man who was my best friend and was kind and nice and loving, but he didn't have the other aspects that I wanted in a relationship. He was safe. and he was my friend, but he wasn't my lover. And he didn't invoke that thing in me that those other men invoked in me. Because those men, that was about love. That wasn't about safety. And as soon as we got divorced, I jumped into, okay, I'm right back to that man who is not emotionally available, but I'm super attracted to, and I get into fear and fight or flight and angst and longing. It's a pattern that I understand. And while I was even conscious of that, I didn't really understand why I was doing that, and I was never working on that until the last relationship, which has brought me here. Because for someone in a state like I was, all that narrative did was make me feel bad about myself, and it made me more confused. It pushes people into the next relationship without understanding why they choose the way they choose. What part of them is constantly getting activated or constantly shutting down? What need is not being met within themselves that they're trying to have met outside of them with someone else? What beliefs, what agreements, what stories, what trauma from their past is running the show of their current relationship? If you leave one relationship where all that stuff is up, not only for you, but for your partner, most likely, they have stuff. If you leave without doing the work, you're not actually finding better. You might find different or better for a while, but the truth is that those unexamined patterns are coming right into the next connection. And you're chasing the next dopamine hit of the honeymoon phase, the next promise that it's going to be different, the next potential, the next fantasy. This is going to be different. This person's going to be different. This is the one that's finally going to love me. I mean, I remember thinking that. I finally found the one that is finally going to love me. And so I think we should stop telling people to go find someone better and invite people to explore doing their inner work, which is why I've created this podcast, because I was tired of doing the same thing over and over again. And I knew on this core level, even if it wasn't conscious, that I needed to change. I needed to heal. And so, of course, since this was my path, a lot of the women who were called to work with me were in similar positions. They were in a relationship with people that they really loved and cared for at one point or still, but they were in a lot of pain. And there was a lot of agony around staying or going or leaving and coming back. And one of the things I noticed with them is that they were really hard on themselves. They were beating themselves up. They were saying, well, my mom just says, why can't I leave? Or you could do so much better, or you could find someone like this. And the problem with that narrative, whether it's from social media or if it's someone you love, because we all have had someone we love where we look at them and we're like, God, I love you. You're so amazing. You could do so much better than this. You don't need to be treated like that or talked to like that. You don't deserve that. You deserve all the happiness in the world. Okay, that's not going to land as empowerment if somebody is really hurting and confused. It lands as pressure. It lands as shame. And it lands as another voice saying, you're doing it wrong. You're not strong enough. You should already be gone. Most of us do not stay because we're lacking self-worth. It might look like it on the outside. It might be wrapped in, I'm afraid to leave, and what about the kids and the anxiety and the upheaval and all the time spent, and what if they change for somebody else? But ultimately, what I have found, when someone's consciously doing this work, they're conscious. They're not just playing in a pattern, but they're exploring. If you're listening, there's something about this. There's something about you, a part of you that is exploring because you know there's something inside the relationship and inside of yourself that is unfinished. And that means that something needs to be understood. It needs to be named, healed, or reclaimed. And here's the deal. That does not happen when you just leave. It happens when you stay, but you also know that you can't stay in the way it is now. That something greatly has to change. And the only person that you can change right away is yourself. And that's what this whole podcast is an invitation, is to begin to do the work of awareness, to begin to come home to yourself, to not go find somebody who's going to love you better. I don't want to send you outside of yourself to chase something. I want to send you within yourself. So if you're a person who's in a relationship right now where there's conflict, there's unmet needs, there's anxiety, chasing, depression, walling off, fear, I invite you to ask yourself, have you faced your wounds? Are you choosing the same partner over and over? Do you know your voice? Do you feel confident in your voice? Can you use your voice in your relationship? Because if you can't use your voice in your current relationship, you're not going to magically use it with the next person. You're going to find somebody like I did where it felt safe enough to use your voice. But that doesn't necessarily mean that I felt safe enough to use my voice when it really mattered with the person that was being boundaryless. So if you're thinking, well, I use my voice all the time, I have no problem speaking up, because here's the deal. There's two sides to the codependency coin. Do not forget, please. I'm not codependent. I'm not anxious. I say what I want. My question to you is for you to decide, are you speaking up and using your voice, or are you defending yourself with your voice? Are you loving yourself and setting a boundary, or are you defending yourself? Because there's a difference. Coming from anger is not using your voice. It's protecting yourself. Walling off isn't using your voice. It's guarding yourself. Explaining, justifying, debating, getting loud, getting sharp. That might not be the voice of your truth. You get to explore your own voice. But more often than not, it's the voice of fear. Because it's not coming from a place of love or a place of a calm nervous system. It's an activation. It's when that part of you that was shut down all the time, or that part of you had to learn, I got to get big and I got to yell and I got to say the thing to feel safe. That is not the voice that builds intimacy. That voice protects you from intimacy. And I know that voice because even though I didn't have that voice, that's the partner I chose. So the question is not, can you talk or can you speak your mind? The question is can you use your voice in a way that keeps you in integrity with yourself and allows the relationship to grow? Because this is what we haven't learned very much in our relationships, is that there's going to be conflict. How do we speak relationally? How do we have our very real opposite experiences, our anger, our frustration, our hurt, but stay in relationship with one another and not be battling it out? That voice that keeps us in integrity, that voice heals the patterns because that's our authenticity. That voice creates change. That's the voice you carry with you. That's the voice that's going to go right into the next relationship. So your voice is not just what you say, it's who you are when you say it. And this example is the same for, are you shrinking to be loved? Like, are you shrinking to be loved right now? Because guess what? You're going to shrink somewhere else later. And if you don't shrink, if you do the opposite, if you get bigger, louder, assert, push, overreach, it looks like strength, then I ask you, is it the same wound, just in a different costume? Is it self-protection? You're not shrinking to be loved. You're not inflating to be safe. If you inflate and shrink here, you're going to inflate and shrink somewhere else. And it's the same thing with avoiding conflict. Just go find somebody who loves you. Find somebody who loves all those things about you that your partner does. Find somebody who doesn't care how you load the dishwasher. Well, if you're avoiding conflict now, guess what? You're going to avoid conflict with someone new because that other person might not care how you load the dishwasher, but you bet your butt they're going to care about something different. So do you avoid it at all costs? Do you move toward it? Does conflict feel scary, or does it feel like honesty, directness? Ask yourself, is this intensity my truth, Or am I being activated? Is the part of me that learned to protect myself by staying one step ahead of rejection? I'm going to use conflict to feel connected. I'm going to avoid conflict to feel safe. If conflict is where you feel the safest, you're going to create it with someone new. And if conflict is something you want to avoid, you will avoid it with someone new. A more available partner isn't going to fix those things. In fact, a more emotionally available partner is probably going to expose it. Because a more emotionally available partner who've done their inner work, they're going to notice. It's going to hurt. Because it's a way to separate from intimacy in order to protect yourself. Do you know how to hold your own heart? Do you know how to hold yourself? Do you have a relationship with yourself? Do you know how to soothe yourself and love yourself and talk to yourself? And do you know your own intuitive wisdom? Do you know the desires of your own heart? Or do you outsource it? I was an outsourcer. I never guarded my heart. Oh, you would like my heart? Here, please, take it. I collapsed in their arms and worship, adore me, love me. From my trauma, my family of origin, my religion of origin, fill this hole inside of me. Is it going to be you? Or, like my partner, do you guard it? You hold it so tightly that no one gets access. You're not going to collapse into anybody's arms. In fact, you're going to keep yourself so far upright so you never have to. You're independent. You're self-sufficient. You don't need anyone. I love all of you that feel that way. And I'm not here to tell you that's independence or not, but I have to say, so many people come into this world and they go, Marisa, I'm not codependent. This is really annoying. I'm very independent. These are not the same things here. Is your independence coming from a place of love for yourself, or is your independence coming because you're scared? If it's coming for love for yourself, awesome. I'm very independent. I'm very self-sufficient. But the idea that I don't need anybody, absolutely not. I need humanity. There is a tenderness underneath that. And sometimes when people go, well, I don't give it, whatever. You go, I don't care. Just leave then. When that's coming from anger and fear, it's a deflection. When we're embodied, if you are embodied, connected to yourself and empowered, you're going to feel connected to your center. And regardless of the phase of your relationship, if you're connected to your center, what starts to happen is you start to trust yourself. I was not connected to my center at all. I lost myself, completely self-abandoned. And I didn't want to leave, but I didn't know how to stay. And that's when this codependency work came in, and it really turned me towards myself. And what this work was is me learning to trust myself, to be in relationship with myself in a deep way that I still hadn't done yet. Of all the work I'd done since 23 years old, this was like the layer of the onion that I was seeking to avoid. So the question we have to ask ourselves again is that, yes, there's a billion people on the planet, but is that you're taking into the relationship the same you who's leaving the one you're in confused, not embodied, or empowered? Because relationships are not easy. Even the easy ones can be lacking or have their struggles. There's this illusion that we're being sold that gets us jacked up on our power, but then we just find ourselves in the same situation. That doesn't move the needle of change. So instead of telling people to go throw their relationship away and go find a fantasy or something better, I think we should be asking better questions. Those are the questions I hope to be bringing you for inquiry. Curious. I always say I invite you to, because it's your choice. But I didn't ask myself these questions for a long time until I was invited to. Where are you disconnected from yourself? Where are you abandoning yourself? What conversations are you not having because you're scared? Where can you take responsibility but you're not? Where can you ask for more truth? Is my partner willing to meet me in the work? Can we expand our consciousness together inside of the relationship we already have? Or do we just bolt and find somebody different? I think that real love, what I've come to understand, because I have to tell you, I ask myself this question all the time. What's a healthy relationship? What am I willing to take on? What am I willing not to? And I had a therapist who oriented me very well with this question. I love this question she asked. She said, are you getting enough of the things you want to grieve the things you don't? And that was so orienting for me. And then the second thing she told me later on, after I'd done all this work and I was feeling really empowered and I was feeling connected to myself, and I was like not feeling the dynamic in my relationship. I'm growing, I'm healing, my partner is not moving at the same pace. And here I am, I'm doing my inner work. I'm conscious now. I know I have a part, I'm working on that, but my partner's still unavailable. And I still wasn't ready to leave. And I was like, what's wrong with me? What's my problem? I'm in my power. I feel connected to myself. I'm setting boundaries. And she said, you have felt like you've had to be in this relationship for so long that you've never actually considered whether you want to. From the beginning of that relationship, I was in fight or flight, love addiction, chase. His patterns activated all of mine, and I never consciously was choosing him. I was attracted to him. I loved him. I felt feelings for him. I wanted him. But I wasn't actually consciously, from a place of empowerment and love for myself, choosing who I was going to mesh my life with. The work sometimes, the real work, is actually learning how to stay in the relationship, how to tell the truth, how to listen to your body, how to include yourself in the love that you give. I remember the first time I sat in therapy and I was finally like, look, I love you, but I finally love myself more. I finally love myself more than I love you. I'm not afraid to tell you my full and utter truth. Leaving is not the only pathway to freedom. I think real love, especially for ourselves, asks us to grow, not run. It asks us to stay conscious and not slip into a fantasy or social media or comparing yourself to someone else's relationship. It asks us to be honest, not perfect, honest. And it asks us to show up for the work that actually transforms us. And I believe in transformation so much. I mean, since I was 23 years old and I got sober, from the moment I stepped into awareness around my addiction, and then especially after the spiritual awakening I had inside the Toltec path, I have always been fascinated by the human mind, behavior, relationship dynamics. I mean, I was the family therapist when I was a teenager, and I could always see people in these really deep ways. And if I could see patterns playing out, and I could understand, and I could see their wounding, and I could, before I could even see it in myself. And if it weren't for my ADHD, I would have been a psychologist. It was what I wanted to do, but I really struggled to learn. And that all worked out for the best. But because I could see possibility, I could see trauma being healed, I could see addictions being healed, I could see people completely transform their lives. I completely transformed my life. I was continuing to transform my life over and over again. I was committed. I was committed to not living in a place of suffering all of the time, and it required me to do inner work. And so when you're like that, when you're an empath, when you can see the best in people, when you know that change can happen, it can be really easy to stay in a relationship for a long time, because you can look at your person and go, well, I know that they have a kind heart. I know they don't mean it. I know they're not trying to hurt me. I love them. I see they're in pain. I want to help them. They've had abuse. They have trauma. We want people to change. We want to believe that we can all heal and be better and change. And sometimes as we're changing, we want the other person to experience the growth and transformation. We want them to also, we see this glimpse of we could really be happy here. If we stop trying to keep ourselves safe, like, would we fall in love with the person we saw in the very beginning? You know, my partner was not anxious attachment codependent. He learned to keep himself safe by walling off and avoiding intimacy. He was not chasing me, but his entire nervous system was keeping him from being in relationship with me too. He felt safe when we're separate and when he had control. When things got too close, there was a withdrawal. If he cared too much, he'd shut down and get uncomfortable. He wasn't doing that because he didn't love me. He really did love me. But loving me woke up the places in him that he was most afraid. Just like loving him woke up the places in mine. And that's what people are not talking about enough. And it's the part of the codependency that people do not understand. Codependency is not a weakness. Can we stop acting like it's this horrible word? It's not a weakness. It's self-protection. If we stop recoiling as if it's some type of badge of shame and start realizing that these patterns exist in big and subtle ways inside of all of humanity, it is linked to survival. It's the version of you that learned very young that surviving emotionally, mentally, and physically required all of these protective mechanisms, required shape-shifting, walling off. It's instinct. It's a patterned response to fear. Two people can love each other and be terrified. Two people can want each other and both be protecting themselves at the same time. Two people can be trying to do the right thing, but they're acting from their trauma and their adaptive children, and they're not acting from truth or their functional adult. His fear made him distance. My fear made me cling. His fear made him shut down. My fear made me overfunction. His fear said, I don't need anybody. My fear said, don't lose him. He shape-shifted by hardening. I shape-shifted by softening. Both strategies come from the same place: self-protection. Neither of us was living from our heart. Neither one of us was rooted in our truth. We were both in relationship in fear. And this is the part that people are missing when they blame the relationship or say just leave or glamorize the idea of something better. It's a him versus me, healthy versus unhealthy, or right versus wrong. When really most of the time it's two nervous systems trying to survive. It's two histories colliding. It's two people who truly are longing for intimacy or connection or to cohabitate because they wouldn't be in relationship with one another if they didn't want that. But then at the same time, they're doing everything in their power to protect themselves from the thing that they wanted. These dynamics, the fear, the old wounds, it's what creates most of the pain in our relationship. It's not the lack of love or the incompatibility or the destiny. Most of the time, and this is the invitation, are you with someone where it's just really not a good fit? Or are you with someone who also does not know how to stay connected when they're hurting? Are you with somebody who doesn't know how to stay connected to themselves and you because they either completely lose themselves in you or they have to be completely separate? I wasn't connected to myself when I was with him. I was totally connected to myself until I met him. And then I didn't know how to stay connected to myself and to him at the same time. That is the real work. That's the real healing. And that's where the relationship can collapse or transform. And that's where you're going to have to decide how resilient you are, how long you want to wait. But what I always tell the women that I'm working with is that this is a process and you're not going to change it overnight. And you got to heal and get really connected to yourself first so you can ask yourself the question, have I been in a healthy place enough to actually choose this relationship, or have I been fighting for it because I feel like I have to? You have to do the work to get to a place where you feel like you can choose. If you're ready to go, you're going to go. But most of the time, at least the women that I'm working with, they're right in that place. The healthiest relationship I've ever had in my life was also the most painful one. And it was the first time I didn't run to find better. And once somebody could say, well, that's because you were so codependent and you're so needy and how long are you going to take? And I can't believe you're going to do that. But you know what? It was the first time I stayed long enough to see myself, to really see myself, not just the other person. It was the first time I started to set boundaries and gain confidence instead of leave that person and find somebody else I didn't have to set boundaries with. It was the first relationship where I lost myself, started loving him more, and then came back to myself and started loving myself more. It was the first time I was in a relationship with someone where I had the courage to say, hey, are you willing to meet me? Are you willing to do this inner work? If so, great. But if not, I cannot stay. I'm done. I won't stay. Now, my partner just happened to say, yes, I will work on meeting you. So what I've learned is that the healthy relationship is an easy and perfect one. It's not two people who never trigger each other. I really think a healthy relationship are two people who are committed to awareness. And here's the deal. If you become so aware and you're doing this work and your partner is not stepping into awareness, you will leave. You will go and you will know and you will trust, and it won't be confusing. It might be hurtful and painful. You're not going to be confused anymore because you're aware. And then guess what's going to happen? The next time you go on a date with someone and they are not in awareness, sorry, that is not a red flag that you are going to paint green. Healthy relationship is because we're healthy. It's two people who can say, you know, this is my pattern. And yes, I do shut down. And I do get scared. It doesn't mean you're still not going to blame and defend and get in a fight and go one up and go one down. That's humanity. We're going to do that. But after the fact, are we aware that we did that? Do we want to repair? Do we want to find a way to be relational? And in my life, not even just my romantic relationship, the relationships that transformed the most in my life were not ones where somebody finally changed and started acting how I wanted them to or would accept me for the way I was. It's honestly been the ones where I stopped blaming. I stopped expecting people to be something they're not. I stopped asking them to be different. I stopped taking personally all of their projections. I stopped resenting them for not meeting my needs that I never actually spoke in the first place. I learned how to hold a boundary. I learned how to ask for what I want. I learned how to listen to somebody who was hurt by me without defending myself. I learned how to own up to my own part. I learned how to be the version of me that was authentic and trust that I could handle the outcome of that instead of being the person that is more acceptable. I started trying to relate to people, and I was able to do that because I was unlearning all of my insecure patterns. I was having the courage. And I think I shared this before. When I first started setting boundaries, I lost a lot of friendships because I was setting a lot of boundaries with love for myself. And it took me a while to realize that, okay, now how do you set boundaries with love for yourself and with love for them or love for the relationship? Because I was setting boundaries, but I was in fight or flight. I was setting boundaries, I call it overcorrected, because I'd never done it before. You're not going to mess with me. I'm going to stand up for myself. Well, that's great. I should stand up for myself and you shouldn't mess with me. But the energy behind it was fear and anger. It wasn't self-confidence and trust, which is more grounding energy. Healthy relationship should be resilient enough to move through uncomfortable things. And usually those resilient relationships are the one where you can actually talk and be yourself and say the thing and say the scary thing and do the scary thing. It's not about perfection. It's definitely not about fantasy. And so please pay attention to what you're taking in. Let something inspire you. I'm gonna name this because it feels really important. I'm really into fae. I gotta call it smut. It's really not romance. I'm really into these books, Kiss of the Basilisk and Akatar. I'm really into these books, okay? I'm into these books because I love the freedom in the sexuality, something that in my religious upbringing I didn't get to experience as a young woman. And I'm reading these books and I was getting resentful. Why doesn't my partner? I was getting angry. And like I would like be pissed at my partner when they came home because he wasn't throwing me up against a wall and telling me that like the water runs through my eyes and he could not live without a drink or like whatever they say in these books. Like I was getting pissed. And because I live in a place of conscious awareness and I'm constantly like, in a place of observation with myself, I'm like, wow, Marisa, like you need to check in here. Because one, does your partner even know you want him to throw you against the wall? Or like, what do what's going on here? Like, are you even asking for what you want? Two, did you even know you wanted some of these things? Three, what's this invoking in you? What is this really about? Like, what's this really about? It was really about how my body was suppressed and the domestication and the religious trauma and not having a connection to my body or having sexual experiences that I wish I had. Like, this was actually not about him. It was about me. And so when things activate us, when you see something, please be mindful. Please be mindful and say, what does that tell me about myself? Is there something I want or something I need to learn about myself from here? Am I walking away feeling really good listening to this stuff? Or am I feeling angry and pissed? Am I feeling inspired? Because that's what those things should do, in my opinion. Most of those books have a female figure that is really like coming into her power. And I love that because it took me so long to come into my power. And I really was like, I don't read that stuff and watch that stuff for maybe some of the reasons that people would think, or somebody would look, my partner's like, another one of these books. Like, it's because to me, it's embodiment. I don't want to get too much on a tangent, but these books are really popular right now. So, and it's the same with social media. When you're comparing yourself and you're seeing someone with their, wrapped around their lover in the pool and they're like looking perfect and everything's great. Healthy relationships are not where everybody's getting what they want all the time. Healthy relationships are when people know how to stay conscious and accountable and connected to themselves while they learn how to love each other, while they're bumping up against their partner. So if you're listening to this and you're in that in-between place where you love someone deeply, but you're also hurting, or you don't know if you want to stay or you want to go, or people are telling you there's something better, I really want you to know that there's nothing wrong with you for wanting to stay. There's nothing wrong with you for wanting to make it work. And there's nothing wrong with you for not being ready to leave. You're not confused. I know it feels like you're confused because I felt like I was confused or weak or behind in some way. What I came to realize is I was really just meeting the places inside of myself that had never been given room to breathe. So if you take anything from this episode, please don't abandon yourself in the name of love, of course, but do not abandon love in the name of self-protection. Just for today, come back to yourself. Tell yourself the truth first. You first. You're first. You start talking to yourself from a place of truth. Don't shapeshift for yourself. I'm not going to tell you not to beat yourself up because that's a human part of the experience. But you can see yourself with tenderness, see yourself, your patterns without judgment. Stop judging yourself. And when you start to do that, then you can decide, am I willing? Do I want to ask my partner to do the work? Or am I ready to go? I would never give my partner an opportunity to love me for who I was because I never was who I was. Are you in a relationship with your actual partner? Are they in a relationship with you? Are you both in relationships with shape-shifting versions that are trying to stay safe? If the answer is the second, it doesn't mean you have to go run out and find somebody else. It's an invitation for you to show up, start to get embodied, start to learn about yourself, start to do your inner work, start to do trauma therapy, start to see a therapist, ask for a couples counselor, start to go on retreats, start to get some healing work, start to focus on yourself and your relationship to yourself, your highest self, and to maybe something greater than you, if you believe in that. That is the step to take. And you will deepen and you will transform. It's nearly impossible when you start seeking. And like Jose said, I've said it multiple times. Once you wake up, you can't go back to sleep. This relationship work is always going to begin with you. It's going to begin with you. It's going to end with you. This entire healing our relationships, I hate to be sneaky and tricky, but it's all about healing the relationship to self. I love you. I'm proud of you. And I'll see you on the other side. Thank you so much for being here. If this work is calling you and you want to dive deeper, head to my website, healwithalchemy.com. Set up a free 30-minute connection call to learn more about Awakening Woman, a sacred 12-week journey for the woman who is ready to turn inward, meet herself with honesty, and remember the truth of who she is. Registration is now open for my next retreat, Rise of the Sacred Feminine, in Teotihuacan, Mexico, May 14th through the 19th, 2026. When the ache for truth becomes louder than the fear of change, it's time to say yes to yourself. It is time for a soul return. Meditate with me on Insight Timer, rate, review, and send me an email. I would love to meet you.